Good morning. It's been a hot minute since I've been on here live, but it's just been a busy month. And I couldn't come live last week because I had to go to the dentist. I had to get my teeth cleaned so that they look whiter here for you. So today, believe it or not, is the last Wednesday of February. Can you believe it? We just sailed right through this month. And it is February 22nd. And it's a short month, so the 28th pops up next Tuesday. Um, and you know, it just flew by, and I had things to do. And last week, like I said, I had to go to the dentist. Love for Valentine's just kind of came and went and is gone. And Monday, Monday was President's Day. And so we think about George and Abe, and the whole month is Black History Month. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hop right into what I'm talking about today. Um, and what the four figures of, I'm going to talk about four historical figures and how they should be inspiring to us because we are in times we a lot of us are in times where we're kind of challenged with there's things that we might need to change, stepping out into boldness. And I talk about this a lot, uh, because I want to encourage you to go ahead and do things that you want to try to do. And it could be small or it could be huge. You might be retired, but you feel like there's something else that you want to reach out and do in changing yourself. Or you're an empty nester and it's like, wow, I really gave up a lot of my time. I did my thing as the housekeeper raising my kids. What do I do now? Well, these are pivotal times in our life to go ahead and create change, to do something different. And I've always been a proponent to, it's like, let's go ahead, let's create some change. So I am going to talk about um, people in history that we have that we should be looking up to. Oh, this never popped up. I had So if you're just joining, we're going to talk about presidents and Black History Month. So we're going to talk about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, of course, because their birthdays were in February and they're represented. Actually, one of the other people that I'm going to talk about, Rosa Parks, she too was born in February. And guess what her middle name was? I did not know this until I went to do a little bit of research. Louise. Ah! So I guess there are a lot of great women in history with Louise as their name. Louise is a very strong name, and as you know, well, maybe you don't know. Until my 40s, I did not like my name. It was such an old-fashioned name, and it is such a strong name, and it usually is met with people who are the characterized in a lot of entertainment are characterized as bold, forthright, domineering type people. Well, I do kind of have some of those characteristics and I'm okay with it. Um Now, but as a young, it's like that's not a name I want. I want one of these cute names. Um but now I have Louise and I get my cute name with Weezy. So anyway, we have fun with it and we encompass it, we embrace it. That's the word I'm trying to say. So Anyways, let me move ahead and go on. Um, and I will tell you at the end what my latest challenge is that I I'm doing to be bold in order to move my Weezy ahead. Um, so like I said, this is February. We see President's Day. We see historical figures. Um, and February is a month full of different holidays. So we start with Groundhog's Day, then we go to Valentine's Day, President's Day, and it's Black History Month. And if it's the 20 if the 29th shows up, we celebrate leap year. So, but today this year is not a leap year because it's an odd year. Leap year always has to be an even year. But I'm sure you know that. Anyways, I am going to just be forthright. I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to read from my notes today. Um, but I hope you find this intriguing and let me know if you have any questions. Say hi in the comments so I know who's watching because I like to see who's joining me. And let's go ahead and these little history lessons to hopefully be inspired. Um, so I am going to talk about, of course, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Rosa Parks, and George Washington Carver. I know a lot of these guys or women, these figures, historical figures, are emphasized a lot in February. But I wanted to kind of stick with somebody that you knew for this session. Um, but we can be inspired by them. They're champions of history that encourage us to step out and do things out of our control and comfort zone, or working in our weaker areas where we can let fear come in and be emboldened to go ahead and make that first step out. Often we think about their end game and we're going, oh, they were so bold. They were so, we don't think about the things that they went through. We see the end game and we see how famous they are, and we look at them and going, "Oh, they were so bold." But imagine putting yourselves in a moment, in one of those moments, an incredible moment to step out into history. So I'm going to ask you to kind of use your imagination and put yourself in each one of their shoes as they took moves to make a change in their environments. So, George Washington, we know as the father of our country. He is why we have our freedom. But before he became president, or we know him as the great commander, he endured many things, um, many failures. He was actually known as a very quiet man. He didn't have great teeth. Of course, there's the legend that he had wooden teeth, but either he had great pain because of his teeth or he was embarrassed by his teeth. So he didn't really, he was more stoic. But the thing is before he became that revolutionary leader for our country, he had to go out and he was part of the Indian Wars. And he would get in these tight spots. The Indians would think that they would have him pinned down and his people, and they would escape. They knew there was something different with him. But he went against all of the defeating odds of in each war. And like in Delaware, they thought that before they crossed the Delaware, his men were freezing cold. They had frostbite. They were starving. But he said, buck it up, buckaroos. We're going across this cold river and we're going to do what we need to do. And they did, and they had victory. So he is known as our father of freedom, but he had to conquer a lot. Um, and one other thing that I want to say about two of these figures is they did not have great home lives. They weren't just battling out there to give us our freedom. They were battling things in their own personal lives. And in spite of that, they stood up and they did what they need to do for the betterment of our nation. The second one is Abe Lincoln. He met with lots of failures. He lost so many elections. He lost local elections. He was a lawyer. He lost local elections. He in his politics. He just didn't jive with what was being met. But then once he did start winning elections, he quickly grew. And the next thing, he went from congressman to president like that. Um, he was not known as the greatest speaker. He was slow, he was deliberate. He probably stumbled with his words. How many of us get fearful of public speaking because we might stumble over our words? I may not always speak the most eloquently. I have a lot of pauses in the way I speak, but that's usually because I'm probably haven't prepared as good as I should. And then I don't know my content. I do not rehearse my content. I just come on live. But his actions and what he did, his boldness, he freed the slaves before he was killed. But he sacrificed his life in order to do what he thought was right. Um, the next figure is Rosa Parks. And these other two figures, I just gloss over George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They did a lot of great things, but a lot of it, we know what they did. But Rosa Parks, I want to go into just a little bit deeper. Um, Her full name is Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks, and she was born February 4th, 1913. But she is known for, this is where I'm going to read, on December 1st, 1965, after a tiring day at work, Rosa Parks took a seat in a designated colored section of the city bus in Montgomery, Alabama. So here she is, a woman of color in the deep, deep South, where there's still deep segregation. When the white section at the front of the bus filled up, the driver, James Blake, ordered Parks to relinquish her seat, as was the practice. She refused and was arrested and jailed. Civil rights activists organized a 1-day bus boycott the day of her trial. She did not return to jail. She was fined. With its success, they founded the Montgomery Improvement Association and began a city-wide bus boycott led by a new local minister, Martin Luther King, another great. The boycott lasted 381 days, made to work by African American citizens, many of them whom sacrificed the time and the energy to walk to work in other destinations. As a compromise, the majority of the bus passengers, the boycott greatly reduced the profits for the bus company earned. So, with her taking her bold step, she created change, but it also opened up avenues for other people, um, and birthed the ministry of Martin Luther King, of his great proclamations, um, to create change here in the United States. And then my last one is George Washington Carver. He is the one that I'm going to speak mostly about. Um, just seeing, I got all my words in here. So George Washington Carver, Early life In his early life, he was born to a woman who worked for a white farmer, Moses Carver. So this is where George gets his last name. A white farmer purchased George Carver's mother, Mary, when she was 13 years old. The elder Carver reportedly was against slavery. Now, this farm was in Kentucky, so that's kind of the hotbed of slavery. Um, but he had the people of color helping him because he needed help with his 240-acre farm. But when Carver was an infant, his mother, and sister were kidnapped from the Carver farm by a band of slave raiders who roamed Missouri during the Civil War era, and they were resold into Kentucky. They were in Missouri, but still kind of deep South, Midwest. Um, Moses Carver hired a neighbor to retrieve them, but the neighbor only succeeded finding George, whom he purchased by trading one of Moses's finest horses. Carver grew up knowing little about his mother or his father, who had died in an accident before he was born. Moses Carver and his wife Susan raised young George and his brother James as their own and taught the boys to read and write. So they were colored boys, black boys, raised in a white family, treated like family, and were highly educated. Um, James gave up his studies and focused on working in the fields with Moses. But George, however, was a frail and sickly child who could not help with such work. Instead, Susan, the wife of Moses, taught him how to cook, mend, embroider, do laundry, garden, as well as concoct simple herbal medicines. So he does this, and he's inspired, and he's very inspired by agriculture. At 11, it's decided that it's time for him to go on to a higher education and to be more indoctrinated with people of his own kind. So he goes off for a good education at a Negro school, but grows bored. Moves to another school at the age 13 on his own volition. He moves to another school to get even more education because he knew that he needed education. He had a desire to learn. As we see in his history, again, he goes forward despite the circumstances to do and invent the great things he did in growing up. Now, he invented the peanuts. The peanuts gave people something good to be able to grow in the earth and provide a source of protein. He invented sweet potatoes and several other things. If you want to know more about George Washington Carver, you can go to thehistorychannel.com, and all of these people are represented in the History Channel. I found most of this stuff just by a Google search. Um, but the thing is all four of these people, they had something within them. They had a determination, and no matter what the odds were, they had lots of naysayers. They had lots of things going against them. They were arrested. They were mocked. They were ridiculed. They, some of them were risking their lives in order to pursue, and one did risk his life. But people are still talking about them respectively for what they did and accomplished in their lifetime. Why am I sharing this with you? Because we all have our shortcomings and we may focus on them. Sometimes we just have to go against the norm. We worry about what people might say, how they may mock us, the way they may talk against us. But sometimes when it is truly for the right thing, we just have to go against the norm and go ahead in our achievements. It may, and we may encounter huge failures at the moment, But if we keep moving forward, we grow our capacity and our capability. So if you are afraid to learn something and you say, I'm just not smart enough, I call out malarkey. I know what I would really say, but the thing is if you truly desire it, there is a way to learn. There is materials out there and or people who are teaching these things to move you forward. There's a will, there's a way. And so so just like these four people, we may not be looking forward to achieve historical change, but I bet you will do something to cause change in your environment. So go out, be bold, try something new that you desire. And that is my thing for Weezy today. Um, I have to confess, today I am doing something bold. Good morning, Mary. If you commented a while ago, um, it just showed up. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's such a delay here. Um, but please say good morning if you're just joining me. I'm coming up to the end. So if you're coming on now, you're going to want to watch it later, the replay here on Facebook or YouTube. Um, Let me just click over here. Um, I want, you can see where you can subscribe down here at the bottom. And if you're watching my videos, please give them a like. It's not a vanity thing on my part. It is a thing that it just helps me get my I'm trying to grow these channels organically, and if I don't get engagement, I don't grow. And I know you are good people and you want to help me do that. But anyway, you can see where you can find me down on the bottom, and subscribe if you haven't. Give me likes when you watch my videos. But today I take a bold step. One of the things that has been holding me up this month from sending the usual content out that I usually do on my Wednesday newsletters or being live here is I'm trying something new. Um, I'm teaching a workshop today. I only advertised it to the people who in my business community who want to learn how to do video. And I'm stepping out and doing my first monthly workshop. And it's a journey. And there's been a lot of mindset around it and always a little insecurity. But I have 3 people signed up, and I'm very thankful for those 3 people. I would have liked a few more, but I'm very happy to have a small group. But we are moving ahead, and those 3 ladies are taking bold steps to move out of their comfort zones also. So if you're the praying type, the encouraging type, just keep us in your thoughts and prayers today as we move ahead into yet a new territory for Weezy. That's all I have for today, everybody. I'll be back with something next week. It'll be March 1st, and we will have something to talk about. If you have ideas of subjects that you would like me to talk about, please send me a note. I would love some ideas for some show content. But I hope your day is great, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.